Welcome back to the show. News is moving really fast, and because news is moving really fast, I'm trying to keep up. So there's been interesting news that has come out, and this breaks down into two different bits of news. One, Iran is pounding the holy hell out of Israel right now. They're doing so in some respects in the daylight. Apparently, warning sirens in some of these places have not even been going off, meaning they've been hitting them without sirens alerting the Israelis that these poundings have been taking place. And it seems as if on some level this is a retaliation, and it is a brutal, withering assault that Israel does not seem to have the ability of air defense to knock that stuff out of the sky. It seems to be hitting their targets. On the second front, the questions that we asked in the previous video, some of those have been answered, and some of those were dead on. So first, I'm trying to figure out where to go to first. Let's go to the strikes first. As I said, Iran has opened up a withering response. And let's go look at some of these responses. In the skies of Jerusalem, they're seeing stuff like this. There's a missile streaking through the sky, unmolested. Am I right? Let's go to the next video. This is Tel Aviv. Whatever is hitting Tel Aviv, it has been leaving marks. Look at that. These are recent, by the way. This has happened over the last, either overnight or now. Look at that. Whew, that's some hot coffee. That coffee is hot. Jesus Christ, that coffee is hot. Let's go to the next one. This has been taking place in Haifa and Tel Aviv, by the way. Here's another one. This one is coming. RT is apparently on the ground. I'm watching this one. It's devastation.
Пиздец.
Somebody sounds like they're out of breath. Wow. Let's go to the next one. There's more. There's plenty more, actually.
זירת ההרס פה בצפון הארץ, 3 מבנים שנפגעו קשה. היו פה לכודים, לוחמי האש חילצו אותם, הייתה אזעקה נוספת.
Okay, I don't know what he's saying, but apparently the people who are here are effectively saying the coastal city has been fundamentally destroyed. It's just been trashed. There's more. This is taking place in Tel Aviv this morning. Next one.
המבדר אני מאשי. הססנת פלקפוק. חי בניין. אוהב בניין. הוביך לכנס את בניינים.
Wow. That looks like Gaza, right?
תקדר להקים סוד קימו. לא חייב.
That looks a lot like...
כולו עג'ם קיני רמת אביב. המבדר אני מאשי.
Let's see, what's the next one? Okay. There is another one. Let's go to this one. This was Impact. That took place this morning. I think Professor Morandi showed this one. Yeah, no, man, I'm shocked too. I'm shocked also. That's a hell of a blast. Yeah, man. I think he's hollering for some coffee. Yeah. Yep. Right outside of Paris. That is amazing. I mean, these videos are coming out left and right. Here's another one, just in case you wanted to get another eye view of this. Share this. That's another angle.
Wow.
Wow, indeed.
Wow.
Wow, that's a good cup of coffee. What is this? What kind of coffee is this? These pretzels are making me thirsty.
Wow.
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
Wow.
Indeed. Personally, my favorite response is still that guy who screamed, "What the fuck?" That's my favorite response. That is my favorite response. That guy gave the most accurate response to pretty much anybody. But these videos are coming out back to back to back. Apparently, this is another one that was destroyed by RT. Caught this one. Apparently, the Russian is on the video saying, "Fuck." Let's see if I can show it. Let me see if I can hear him say it. You don't do that on air. It's not supposed to. Even the trash can took a hit.
Пиздец.
What the fuck? All right. So, at the very least, what we see is pummeling taking place, rage, indignation, punishing the client for what Papa did. And maybe those strikes were going to come anyway. Who knows? But clearly, the videos that are coming out, they are punishing. I mean, even Haifa has been taking a hit. Let me see if I found the other video for Haifa. Tel Aviv has been getting pummeled. Haifa has been getting pummeled. In fact, there was another video, and maybe I'm missing it, where they hit a command center that was on the roof of a building. Apparently water. Right here. Here's another one. So the water system at Haifa has been wrecked. This is one of their main areas.
איזה קיצון.
I think went over down apparently to the sewer system.
איזה קיצון.
On some level, I suppose this is in part Iran's response. Here's another one. Shout out to DD Geopolitics. They do God's work. This is hitting command center, top of the building. I put too much sugar in my coffee, so it's sweet. I'm drinking. Yeah, that sounds like one. Yeah. Yep. That's what happens. That's what happens, bro. That's what happens. So, that is Israel right now. That is Israel right now. On the second front, the U.S. has entered the war directly. Now, Donald Trump has come out and chest up, said we destroyed, all of these nuclear facilities for them. Ishful, I'm butchering these names. Let me get the names specifically because I'm going to butcher them. And damn it, I didn't even turn monetization on. Let me turn it on now. But effectively, Trump comes out, say he's destroyed all 3 nuclear facilities completely. That, Iran has been set back, all of the stuff that Donald Trump came out with and said. Now, as I pointed out in the last video, that this was nonsense. I was very clear, this was nonsense. And more to the point of this being nonsense, we asked various questions in that last video, because the main question boiled down to, is this an escalatory ladder? Meaning, is the United States doing this with the notion that Iran is going to respond so it can continue back and forth with response in order to get further involved into the war? We asked, why the theatrics? Meaning, if you're going to do a strike and you're using nuclear weapons as a justification for the strike, why are you doing this theatrical strike that is purely superficial? And this is something that was reported on the ground. And even from a bit of logic standpoint, even when the US was analyzing what it would take to go after, let me get a specific name for this place because I'm going to butcher the name if I'm not looking directly at it. But effectively, if you're not going to do an actual strike that is necessary to destroy the nuclear facilities, then why are you doing this theatrical, superficial strike? That was one of the other questions that we effectively asked as we were looking at the events on the ground and analyzing what Donald Trump came out and said. Fordow, Natanz, and Efshan. All right. The other question that was asked, and I think Sparky asked this one, is this getting off of the escalatory ladder? Now, I posed multiple questions in regards to what could potentially happen. And one of the questions that I asked with this is, okay, well, what if Iran responds at parity? You hit us, we hit you. Does the president stop there and get off the escalatory ladder? The secondary part to that was, if we do that, and you get off the ladder, and we continue to hit Israel, then what? Meaning, if the entire point of this is to save Israel, where they're throwing their body on Israel, does the US stop and allow its colony, its client, to continue to get pummeled in the way that you saw it getting pummeled? That is an interesting question, right? So apparently, it is being reported that there were back-channel communications where Donald Trump communicated that this was a once-off, that he gave advance notice of the attacks, and in giving advance notice, effectively wanted something similar to the murder of Soleimani, where we attack, you respond, let's say you maybe hit our military bases, equal of lesser value. This is something that I posed before. What if Iran gives parity? They're not trying to get dominance because they don't want to draw the US further into the war. And so what they do is say, okay, we'll hit you at parity and we will allow you to stop because we need to focus on Israel, which is our main opponent in this contest. And then my question was, okay, well, does the US allow that? If the US doesn't allow it and continues to strike, then that means the US wants the escalatory ladder. If the US stops, then it means they don't want an escalatory ladder, which means they want to stop and not get embroiled into a larger war in the Middle East. I also posed the question of what is in the president's mind. Is it possible that the president doesn't want a long war, which was the reason for the theatrics, which is, look, we didn't go all in. We hit you theatrically. Yes, we're chest thumping as if we did. But you know the reality of it, that we didn't do it. This was theatrical. So any strike that you do to us should also not go all in and not go beyond a certain point that will force us to respond, because we don't want a larger war in the Middle East. Now, the point that I think I made in the last video was, regardless of what is in the president's mind, the president has no idea how Iran is going to respond to you striking in the heart of Iran and hitting its assets. It doesn't matter if it's theatrical. You've invaded their airspace. You've attacked their assets. You've attacked their country. What is commensurate with that? From our point of view, may be different than yours. The people who are telling Trump that this will be okay may be telling him this will be okay with the entire point of getting Donald Trump on an escalatory ladder. I hope you get my point. Regardless of what is in his mind, he has no idea how Iran is going to respond. When they murdered Soleimani was not in Iran, but you've just hit Iranian territory. not an embassy, Iranian territory proper. You've destroyed assets. No, you might not have destroyed their bases. You might not have gotten the nuclear material. You might not have gotten any of that stuff that is irrelevant to the point. What is parity in that regard? Right? And isn't parity on some level subjective? And if somebody told the president they're not going to respond, or they respond with equal and lesser value, in which case Trump says, okay, I can tolerate that. What is equal and lesser value from the perspective of the victim in this? The rapist thinks to themselves, okay, you could do something back to me. And the person who was raped says, I want to take your balls off. And the rapist says, whoa, that's too far. The rape victim doesn't think it's too far. I hope you get my point. They're assuming parity, as if parity is something that both of us agree upon. They're assuming parity as if Iran will be okay with the United States invading and attacking the country. They don't know that. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump wants something. Babies and children want all sorts of things. Oftentimes they want to touch the stove, not realizing that it's hot. I'm saying that Iran may take you up on that. They may accept, okay, we'll do parity. And we're going to continue to focus and pound the shit out of Israel. Is that acceptable to Trump? I hope you get my point. All of these are fascinating questions that we don't really have answers to. It doesn't really matter what Trump wants. How does Iran respond? Is the definitive question in this that we don't entirely know. And secondary to the point of if Iran responds with parity, Trump is okay with it, but they continue to pound Israel, knowing full well that Israel air defense is diminishing, their capability of responding is diminishing. Does the U.S. get further involved to protect its client? This is the article that came out. Iran given advance notice as U.S. insisted attacks on nuclear sites is a one-off. We don't want a larger war. That's what that means. We want theatrics. We want to, basically, I talked myself into a corner to such a degree that I have to do something. But I don't want to start a larger war in the Middle East. That's not what I want. That's not within our capacity to do. That's not what I want. It will be dramatically unpopular at home. Having body bags come back would not necessarily be good for my presidency. But I was blustering to such a degree for 3 months that now I need to do something. Help me save face in my country by allowing this theatrical display of military force. That's assuming you believe them even, right? The US President Donald Trump says 3 key nuclear facilities in Iran have been obliterated. I want you to be able to see it for yourself. While threatening more strikes, if peace does not come quickly, this comes as AMWJ, Amwaj media has learned that Washington notified Tehran of the strikes. Speaking on condition of anonymity, a high-ranking Iranian political source confirmed that Trump administration on June 21st conveyed that it did not seek an all-out confrontation and only intended to strike Fordow, Ifshan, Natanz nuclear sites. Importantly, the CU source also confirmed that the targeted sites were evacuated with, quote, most of Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium kept in a secure location. Theater. It was all theater. All right, you got your theater. They want something like Soleimani. And this also explains why they evacuated some of the military locations. I imagine with the idea that if Iran strikes those, nobody gets hurt. Structural damage. Everybody says fair game. Again, though, you're stuck with a problem. Your client is getting pummeled. What do you do about that? And do you find some other reason or justification to get involved? I mean, Donald Trump said, hey, if there's not peace, then we're going to do more strikes. Okay. So you telling them it's once off while simultaneously saying we're going to do more strikes if you don't make peace. Okay, what if they don't make peace? They're pummeling them today. They're hitting them hard, daytime. What do you do? What do you do? What if they're not scared of you in the way that you think they are? Meaning, what if they do hit you and you reach a parity and they keep attacking Israel? Then what? Then what? Do you do more strikes? And do they hit you again? At what point does this not become theater? Trump needs to really consider that. China will be helping Iran. They will be giving them all the weapons and materials that they need. In fact, I want to show one last thing before I close it. There's an analyst that covers Chinese media, and she made this point about a weapon system that Iran is using that is specifically related to China's, let's say, helping and assisting Iran in using it. Right here, this. This missile that looks like a sperm cell, it just does. Beautiful when you look at it, right? This is called a Seiji missile, fired for the first time. She points out, she says, China gave Iran a lifeline. Without Beidou, Iran might have surrendered. Well, I don't know about that. Beneath the smoke-filled night sky, an Iranian missile streaked through the darkness and slammed directly into the Israeli Ministry of Defense's command center. The explosion instantly cut surveillance feeds. Shockwaves rippled through the nearby neighborhoods, shaking buildings across several kilometers. Meanwhile, in Tehran command room, Iranian technicians monitor a Beidou navigation terminal as the coordinates updated in real time. The missile hit with surgical precision. On screen, the hit probability curve spiked, marking turning point. Iran had entered the age of precision warfare. Her point is, it was Chinese assistance that allowed Iran that military capability in a way that they may not have had it on their own. They're not alone. They're not alone. China may not be bringing in military force, but they're obviously not going to let Iran fall without putting up a hell of a fight before it does. And if Trump really does indeed not have an appetite for a long Middle East war, then what is he doing? I'll end it here. I didn't want to keep this one long. I just want to, give an update on what's taking place currently. Chili pepper. So the U.S. strikes when Iran calls destruction of Israel. No, Israel strikes on Iran will cause the destruction of Israel. The U.S. getting involved in it will embroil the United States into a larger Middle East conflict that it may not necessarily want to get involved in. At least from the standpoint of Donald Trump, not necessarily want to be brought into another Middle Eastern war. We'll see. I mean, habitual liars lie, right? So Trump could be saying that with this idea of, hey man, just let me get in one strike, which is not going to happen. As I said, there are questions that are looming even now. Even if we accept what Donald Trump is saying is true, if I don't want to get involved in a larger Middle Eastern conflict, let's say it's true. They will respond to you. A response of equal or lesser value. Okay, that is subjective as hell, right? But let's say they do that response. Let's say that you want to call it a day because it didn't kill anybody, but they keep hitting Israel. Then what? How much pain are you willing for your client state to accept? And if Iran takes it as their objective of destroying the state of Israel, will you get further involved? These are fascinating questions. These are fascinating questions. Meaning, if Trump is saying, make peace or else, and they tell him to F off, and he's already given a back channel saying this is just a once off, they may not accept peace terms. They won't accept peace terms under those guidelines. They have said Israel needs to stop and will stop. And I put a maybe behind it. Because I do think this has been building up for a very long time. And the fact that Israel attacked him first, I do think that in their minds, they're taking this as this is our chance to A, teach them a lesson or completely dismantle that colony. If they can't find safety in Israel, maybe they'll leave. Maybe they'll leave. It is interesting. It is interesting. And last one, Raymond76, you must say, God damn, Jimmy, this is some serious gourmet shit when you take a sip of your coffee. China is letting Iran test weapons on Israel. Yeah, right? Ain't that some shit? That's what they were doing in Gaza. That's what Israel was doing in Gaza. They were testing weapon systems and then selling them to somewhere else. In this case, China's like, hey, we have this new technology. Maybe you'd like to use it. Let's see how it works in practice. Wow, that system works fantastic. Fantastic. And doing it while drinking some damn good coffee. That is some damn good coffee. That is some damn good coffee. We'll see what happens. I mean, we're still in a situation where we have questions that are looming. That frankly, even from the last video, have not necessarily been answered in its entirety. If Iran continues to hit Israel, is the U.S. okay with that? Is the U.S. okay with that? How can you make peace with somebody who's been committing a genocide? There's that. How do you make a deal or amends with somebody who effectively lied and worked with that genocidal group of sociopaths to attack you while you were in negotiations? And if you're Iran, you know that the U.S. was never really in honest negotiations. What do you do with that? One caveat. One caveat. When I make the point of saying Iran needs to take their respect at the barrel of a gun, I've said before in other videos that it may require a skirmish for any deal to take place. Why did I say that? I said that because if you're looking at what took place in the Russian situation, there was no respect for the Russians. Russia said they wanted the security guarantees. Europe and the US didn't care. They said that they were out there trying to find a new architecture for Europe because they kept expanding NATO to their border. The US and Europe said they didn't care. They did Minsk agreements 1 and 2. US and Europe didn't care. Ukraine was effectively killing ethnic Russian Ukrainians. The US, Europe didn't care. And they were trying to make Ukraine part of NATO. Russia objected, US, Europe didn't care. All of this was radical and complete disrespect. Russia had to take their respect at the barrel of a gun and create the best military, potentially in the world, in the way that they fight their wars and kill one Nazi after the next, gain ground slowly but surely in a war of attrition where they wear their enemy down like lava rolling down a cliff, just steamrolling them up to the point where it speeds up faster and faster, where the Ukrainian military is being effectively demolished. You respect them now, right? They can destroy Europe if they need to. Meaning, you have to deal with them on even terms. Because all things being equal, they can force an unconditional surrender. And if you get involved, you're going to end the world. When they're looking at Iran, they're looking at them in a similar lens as they looked at Russia, as if we are a stronger force. Like Scott Ritter said, we're America, you're Iran, so you have to do what we tell you to do. Okay, you can't negotiate with people under those terms. And so my thing was, you may need a skirmish to show that you are militarily sufficient to defend yourself against monsters and against sociopaths. Which means you may need to take your respect at the barrel of a gun. Now, how far that goes, anybody's guess. But you may actually be able to get a deal going forward after this in a way that you could never get before this. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I'll end it here. Love you, brother. Nima. Oh, thank you, Nima. Wait, is this, which Nima is this? Nima, are you from Dialogue Works or are you just another Nima? If you are from Dialogue Works, you have a fantastic fucking show, man. You do damn good work. All right, I'm going to end this. I'm going to say like. I'm going to say share. I'm going to say subscribe. We live in interesting times. We live in very interesting times. We'll know in a few days what happens. But obviously, Iran is, they're in a mood. They're in a mood. That mood is justified. If it was me, I would not want to create a justification for the U.S. to get into the war. I want to pummel and finish Israel, or at the very least, stick into their bones don't fuck with us. Which means you reach parity with the US. Whatever you need to do, where you can save face for your own populations of we attacked, we did what we said we were going to do, and you stop. Now, just be clear, that could be a ruse, by the way. That doesn't need to be honest. Trump is a habitual liar. And any response can be a response that the US uses as a provocation. So understand, just because Trump says it doesn't mean he means it. Meaning they could have a back channel saying, hey, we'll let you get some minor attack in, we'll call it a day. Knowing full well that the entire point of that quote unquote minor attack is to get the US further involved. Who knows? It's a war, right? Subterfuge, dishonesty is built into the process of it all, especially when you're dealing with somebody like Donald Trump. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think Iran is in a box every bit as much as Trump is. I don't think you could tell your population, well, we just let the United States attack us without a response. So even if you try to save face, this was a question that I posed in the last video. Does Iran respond in a way of parity with hopes that the US doesn't get further involved? And I just deal with your client. And in the same way that you're dealing with the client, let's say like Ukraine, you're just dealing with the client. You're fighting with your client. But again, behind that fighting with your client, where the US funds their client, Iran is nobody's client, but Russia and China are obviously going to help them out. And you have a proxy war where you don't necessarily get involved. You just hope Israel can do the job. Problem with that logic is that the US has already gotten involved. That logic makes sense if the US never gets involved directly and just gives it to their proxy. That's not what's happening though. The US got involved. You've broken the precedent. So you've gotten involved. Even if Iran reaches parity and they continue to bang and pound Israel, does the US do more strikes? And by the way, just to be very clear, even if Trump believes that once-off stuff, there's going to be enormous pressure on the United States to save its client when it comes across as this client is being taken apart. And so whether you want to get further involved in a war in the Middle East or not may be irrelevant to the point, which means you need to somehow control your rogue, quote unquote, state in some way. And you may need to eat crow if you want to come up with a deal that Iran would actually accept, as opposed to this nonsense of no nuclear enrichment. Like I said, Iran had to take their respect at the barrel of a gun. It's not great. It's just reality. All right, I'm going to end this. Sharia, could Iran use Israel as a pressure valve against the United States' involvement by keeping it limited to one-time confrontation? Well, that's the question. That is the question. And that's the question that I guess I'm asking. If Iran attacks the US in a limited way, just like the US attacked them in a limited way, chest thumps with the same theater that Trump did, the question for that is the US, not Iran. In that case, the question is the US. Meaning if Iran decides on a limited strike, we're not trying to kill nobody, we're not trying to hurt nobody, we're doing damage, we just, we have a concern here with Israel. That's who we want to deal with. We don't want you in it. We want to deal with you. We want to deal with your client. Does the US allow that is the question. And I don't have an answer for that. My feeling is no. My feeling is part of these strikes in and of itself is to, on some level, save Israel, to warn Iran off of pounding Israel. And so even if they attack the US in a limited way, the US may still ultimately get back into the conflict if the strikes on Israel continues, especially if it seems like Israel's capability to defend withers and degrades, which, considering they're hitting them in the daytime, it seems that it is. Good question, Sharia. And Mohammed Kolmaine, if Iran didn't want nukes before, they want them now. Man, who you telling? Who are you telling? Who are you telling? Personally, I thought they should have had him at first. All right, guys, I'm going to end this with 35 minutes in, and I just did a show that was an hour and 30 minutes. Basically, I'm doing a full show today. We live in precarious times. Just to be clear, it didn't have to be this way. Trump involved us in this. Israel is our client. Any attack that Israel does is an attack by the United States. Israel would not do anything without the U.S. green light and the U.S. permission. I agree and accept that they want to go after all of these countries in the Middle East. But that only dovetails with the U.S. policy on those things, meaning they won't do those things if the U.S. did not give it a blank check and a green light to do it, considering that the U.S. also wants those things to take place. The attack on Iran is an attack on Russia, China, and the multipolar world. That's what it is. That's why the U.S. is okay with it. For Israel, this is their greater Israel, the snake that can effectively hold the line against them, which is being shown right now. Not just holding the line, dragging them into a war of attrition where they wear them down day after day after day, where this idea of Israel being a safe place is tarnished and ripped apart day after day as they're living in bomb shelters and living in sewers. It's a psychological operation. It is a mechanical operation as they decapitate the various parts of state that allow state to function with an escalating level of attacks. How long does Israel withstand that? And does the U.S. get involved to try to stop it? And if they do, all bets are off. Trump may want to one-off now. We'll see what that looks like after Iran responds. And if this is an attempt at de-escalation, let's be very clear though. De-escalation comes with respect. Respect means Iran is not going to accept the deal that you're proposing. You would have to accept theirs. Is the U.S. willing to accept that? That's a good question. I don't know. And could Iran even trust the U.S. in doing so? This is a war. There were aims in the war. And if the U.S. is effectively using this nuclear, quote unquote, thing as a pretext to do it, then that on some level is the argument that's taking place. And whether Iran accepts diminishment or whether they don't is the thing to which they're fighting over. In the overt sense, in a real sense, this is about the state of Iran in and of itself. This is fascinating. There's a level of excitement associated with it, but these are real people's lives. If this comes out into a full-blown existential war, which is what I think it is, it's just at a lower level right now. We will see what happens. I'm going to tell you have a fantastic day. Hopefully, I don't have to see you anymore today, meaning no more radical events take place. But I definitely wanted to give this heads up on what is taking place now and the reporting that just came out about Trump wanting this to be a quote unquote once off. Sparky could be right. Trump could be looking at this as an off ramp. And in the context of this being an off ramp, trying to get Israel to stop with the idea of trying to get Iran to also stop in order to give Israel time to get a breather, replenish, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We'll see if it works out that way. Amir, how do I pronounce this? Golami, welcome to the family, man. Welcome to the family. You guys have a fantastic day. Jamal Thomas Morning Show. That's some good coffee, ain't it? That's some good coffee, ain't it? Have a good one, all. Be safe.